You have the first pay-per-view of the year coming up, UFC 324. First Paramount Plus, the main event. I feels like a little bit controversial. Paddy Pimblett, Justin Gaethje.
What's controversial about it?
I think a lot of people feel like Arman.
It should have been Sarukian.
Yeah.
Sarukian's got to work his way back up there, man. Sarukian's had opportunity. He didn't take it.
I know. Obviously, he had the fight in L.A. or didn't have the fight in L.A.
I have to be able to count on somebody if somebody's going to fight for a world championship. Got to be able to count on them. It's like the whole John Jones thing right now, you know.
What does it look like when you say he's got to work his way back up? Like, what does that look like?
Well, you know, he just fought this last fight he won.
Yeah.
Almost headbutted him in the face and almost blew the fight by headbutting him in the face at the weigh-ins. We'll see.
With Arman Sarukian weighing in as the backup, is he getting back in the good graces with you and the...
Well, it's not about getting back in the good graces. It's about, you know, the guy had the opportunity to fight for a title and didn't make weight. It's just, I mean, you couldn't fuck up anything worse than that. But he proved, you know, now that he's not fighting for the title and he was here as a backup fighter, he made weight. So it's definitely a step in the right direction.
In the cold, calculated world of the UFC, rankings are often nothing more than a polite suggestion, a decorative number that means very little when real power and money are on the line. Right now, Arman Sarukian, the most terrifying shark swimming in the lightweight division, is discovering this harsh truth the hard way. As the undisputed #1 contender, he should be next in line for a title shot. Instead, he's being treated like a problem that needs to be managed. Dana White has officially pulled the oars out of the water, leaving the division's rightful heir trapped in a high-stakes purgatory. This isn't simply about difficult weight cuts or missed opportunities. This is a masterclass in promotional manipulation at the highest level. The question every fight fan should be asking is brutal, but necessary. Is Arman actually fighting his opponents inside the cage? Or is he locked in a silent psychological war with a CEO who seems to value a personal grudge more than a fighter's professional record? Arman Sarukian has demolished almost everyone put in front of him. His wrestling is suffocating, his striking is improving at a frightening rate, and his confidence is at an all-time high. Yet, instead of rewarding that dominance with a clear path to the belt, the UFC appears to be slowing everything down, forcing him to wait while other storylines play out. In this video, we're pulling back the curtain on the politics and power plays happening behind the scenes in the lightweight division. We'll examine how being too good, too dangerous, and too quiet can actually work against you in the modern UFC. We'll break down Dana White's recent comments, the history of similar situations with other contenders, and what this delay really means for Arman's future. Because in today's UFC, it's not enough to be the best fighter. You also have to be the right kind of fighter. The kind that sells, the kind that creates drama, the kind that makes the boss comfortable. Arman is learning that lesson the hard way. This is the story of how the architect of chaos in the lightweight division is being forced to navigate a system that may not be ready for him yet.
I'm not sold on the idea he's getting a title shot. I don't know why. I feel he's the guy. And one thing that is tricky about becoming a #1 contender, one thing that is tricky about building steam towards a fight is when it's for a title, it's not against an opponent. The only thing in our sport that trumps main event is title, and the only thing that trumps title is personal grudge. The best way to get a fight is to have a personal grudge. Oh, and by the way, also be the #1 contender, ranked #1.
The UFC used to market itself as the purest form of combat sports, a place where the best fighter in the world would eventually rise to the top through pure merit. Today, that dream feels increasingly like a fairy tale. The sport has shifted. It's no longer just about finding the best. It's about finding who sells the most tickets, generates the most headlines, and creates the most drama. Arman Sarukian is currently living through the death of meritocracy in real time. He sits comfortably at #1 in the lightweight rankings, Yet he's being told to work his way back up as if he hasn't already earned his spot. While Dana White publicly cites reliability issues and past weight problems, the subtext feels much darker. Arman may simply be too dangerous, too dominant, and too quiet for the promotion's current plans. In a sport where a personal grudge can trump an undefeated streak or a dominant record, being a silent assassin has become a career death sentence. Arman doesn't just need a fight, he needs a villain arc. He needs to manufacture heat, create chaos, and force the UFC's hand if he ever wants to see that title shot. In this deep dive, we explore how the lightweight division has become a case study in modern UFC politics. We'll look at the fighters who got fast-tracked because they knew how to play the game, and the ones who got stalled because they didn't. We'll examine whether Arman's respectful, no-nonsense approach is holding him back, and what he might need to do to break through the invisible ceiling that currently stands between him and undisputed gold. This isn't just about one fighter's frustration, this is about the soul of the sport itself, and whether true merit still has a place in the brightest lights of the UFC. What do you do when you've already beaten nearly everyone in your division, yet the door to the throne remains firmly locked? Arman Tsarukyan is red hot and completely unbooked, a dangerous combination that usually signals either an imminent title fight or a systematic sidelining by the promotion. The UFC's current strategy toward the lightweight division appears to be a vague wait-and-see approach. While Arman waits in elite purgatory, the money fights and more marketable matchups continue to take center stage. From controversial headbutts at weigh-ins to his refusal to fight downward in the rankings, the walls are slowly closing in on Arman's championship aspirations. This is the hidden, uncomfortable reality of the fight game that fans rarely see. Sometimes the toughest opponent you will ever face isn't the guy standing across the cage. It's the matchmaker's silence and the promotion's strategic patience. In this video, we break down exactly why Arman Tsarukyan finds himself stuck despite his dominant performances. We'll analyze the current landscape of the lightweight division, the fighters being prioritized over him, and the long-term consequences this delay could have on his career momentum. We'll also explore the psychological toll this kind of waiting game can take on even the most elite athletes. How long can a fighter stay motivated when the system itself seems to be working against his rise? Arman Tsarukyan is one of the most complete lightweights we've seen in years. But right now, he's learning that being elite isn't always enough. This is the story of a predator in his prime being forced to play a patient game he never signed up for.
So we understand this, but who else are you going to put him with? And if you're not booking him right now, and he's currently not booked, and his name is red hot, then that would tell me, if I got to guess, if I'm a guessing man, that would tell me that the opponent that you would like for Arman is already booked himself. That you can't make the Arman fight because his potential opponent is already booked, which means we're going to take our oars out of the water, we're going to let some dust settle.
There is a dangerous new trap sitting in the middle of the lightweight division, and its name is the BMF belt. While excited fans are clamoring for fresh, exciting matchups like Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan, the UFC continues to dangle novelty titles and fun fights as shiny distractions from the real prize. The BMF belt was created for legends whose championship days were largely behind them, a consolation prize for entertainment value. But Arman Tsarukyan is a cold-blooded predator still firmly in his prime. Accepting anything less than undisputed lightweight gold would feel like a symbolic demotion, a quiet admission that the promotion doesn't see him as a true title contender yet. As the UFC tries to pivot toward more marketable, fun fights involving names like Michael Chandler or surging prospects like Ruffy, Arman faces a brutal crossroads. Continue waiting for justice that may never arrive on its own timeline, or risk his entire legacy on a detour that could lead him nowhere meaningful. In this video, we examine how the BMF narrative is being used to keep elite contenders occupied while the promotion figures out its long-term plans. We'll look at the history of similar distractions in the UFC and what accepting a secondary belt would mean for a fighter of Arman's caliber. This is about more than just one fight. It's about the dangerous game of diluted ambitions in a sport that used to reward dominance above all else.
We're going to make the announcement. That could be the title fight. You want to know a fun fight? Now, he would need a win at the White House to get it, but you want to know a fun fight? Michael Chandler. I'd watch Chandler versus Sarukian any way you want to do it. You want to do it in RAF, you want to do it in UFC, BJJ, you want to do it in the Octagon. You want to know another fight for Sarukian? Roofy. Now, Roofy's ranked, this is off the top of my head, but he's ranked like number 8. But that's where you got to go. That's where you have to go.
To survive and thrive in the modern UFC, you have to be far more than just a great fighter. You have to be a compelling storyteller. Arman Tsarukyan is a technical genius inside the cage, but in the eyes of the promotion, he remains a quiet, silent variable that doesn't generate the kind of noise they crave. The McGregor blueprint has become the unofficial law of the land. If you want a title shot, you must make it personal. You must manufacture heat, create drama, and force Dana White to open the vault through sheer force of personality and controversy. Right now, there appears to be a systemic resistance to Arman's smooth and steady rise. To break through that resistance, Arman may need to stop being the respectful, professional contender and start becoming the boss. Because in this cage, the only thing louder than a clean knockout is a well-crafted personal vendetta that sells itself. In this video, we dissect how the UFC rewards fighters who understand the importance of narrative over pure merit. We'll compare Arman's current situation with past contenders who successfully, or unsuccessfully, played the media game, and explore what a villain arc could look like for the Armenian superstar. This is the story of a fighter learning that technical excellence alone is no longer enough in the entertainment-first era of the UFC.
I wanted to bring Charles in, great, and it would be fresh, so that's fun. We could all get behind that, and so would Charles. But are you going to put up the BMF? If you're not putting up the BMF, please don't do it. Whoever Charles fights next, there should be a lineage to that title.
The most telling phrase in recent UFC history might be Dana White's casual admission that the oars are out of the water. Translated, it's a polite corporate way of saying the machine has intentionally stopped moving for Arman Tsarukyan. By keeping the number 1 contender in limbo, the UFC allows the entire landscape to change overnight, often in ways that favor more marketable or less threatening stars. Arman is currently being held hostage by a timeline that isn't his own, forced to wait on the outcomes of fights like Gaethje versus Topuria to determine his own fate. It's a high-stakes game of championship musical chairs, and right now, Arman Tsarukyan is the one left standing without a seat. In this video, we break down the strategic delay happening in the lightweight division. We'll examine how this wait-and-see approach benefits the promotion while punishing the most dominant fighter in the division. We'll look at similar situations from UFC history and what it usually means when a contender is told to be patient. Arman's patience is being tested like never before, and how he responds to this strategic freeze may define the next phase of his career.
Another thought there is that Arman's already beat, right? You're not going to turn to Max. But Max is up there in the rankings. So, who are you going to put him with? I have a very difficult time making sense of anybody as the roster sits right now, aside from the winner of Gaethje versus Ilya. I have a very hard time, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. Not if you go back to my original hypothesis, which is the potential next opponent for Tsarukyan is currently booked. Because the landscape can change real fast when you do that, right? A guy can rise up overnight when you do that.
In Dana White's world, being a world-class fighter is only half the job. The other half is being someone the promotion can reliably count on when the bright lights come on. From past weight-cutting disasters to what some have called John Jones-level unpredictability, Arman Tsarukyan has been hit with the unreliable label, a tax that can cost a fighter far more than any fine or suspension ever could. Even though he has since proven he can make weight as a backup on short notice, the shadow of those earlier mistakes continues to be used as leverage to delay his inevitable rise. It's a brutal reminder that in the UFC, your reputation outside the cage can sometimes be just as damaging as a perfectly timed left hook inside it. In this video, we take a hard look at the so-called reliability tax being placed on Arman Tsarukyan. We'll examine the specific incidents being referenced, how they compare to other fighters who received second chances, and whether this label is fair or simply a convenient excuse to slow down a dangerous contender. This story reveals the uncomfortable truth about power dynamics in the world's biggest fight promotion.
And I don't know where Paddy's at on all this, by the way. Like, Paddy coming off a loss, does that mean he shouldn't fight the number one ranked guy? A lot of times, yeah. That's exactly what it means. Paddy used to want to fight Arman, but Paddy's been very polite lately. A lot of guys, and I think Paddy falls in this category, coming off of a loss just feel, and it's like just a personal code, but they do adhere to it. They just feel, I shouldn't call anyone out. I'm coming off a loss. I need to sit here like everybody else that's got to climb their way back up. I disagree with that.
Arman Tsarukyan has become the king without a crown, a fighter so dominant that potential opponents are seemingly already booked just to avoid facing him. This isn't mere bad luck. It's a calculated strategic vacuum created at the highest levels. When the number one contender has no clear path to the title, it exposes a serious glitch in the UFC's championship system. The promotion appears to be leaning hard into the fun fight era, floating matchups that would pull Arman all the way down to the number 8 spot just to keep him active and visible. But for a man walking an undisputed path to greatness, these suggestions aren't opportunities. They feel like insults. Arman Tsarukyan is the ghost haunting the lightweight division, and right now the UFC is running out of creative ways to keep ignoring him. In this video, we explore the strange phenomenon of the Shadow King and what it means when the best fighter in a division becomes the one the promotion wants to keep at arm's length.
Never stop talking. Be the boss, even after a loss. And I don't know that that's what Paddy's doing, but I'm just sharing. Paddy and Tsarukyan did have some pretty good heat, and both of them, for the time being, have kind of let that go.
The lightweight division is currently paralyzed by an unspoken code of the loser, a strange sense of politeness and hierarchy that prevents fighters from making bold moves. Fighters like Paddy Pimblett, even after suffering a loss, refuse to aggressively call out top-ranked names, choosing instead to climb back up honorably. But in the ruthless Shark Tank of the UFC, that kind of humility can actually be a fatal weakness. Silence allows the promotion to completely dictate the narrative in the matchmaking. Arman Tsarukyan and Paddy once had real organic heat, a fire that could have burned down the gates to a title shot for both men. Instead, they allowed it to cool off. This is the quiet tragedy of the modern fighter, being too polite to become a true superstar, and too honorable to play the role of the villain the sport now rewards.
So I got a really hard time booking him. There's matches that I'm interested in, again, Roofy. There's matches I'm interested in with a win, Chandler. But I don't know that they're realistic. I don't know that you're going to pull your number one guy down to 6, 7, 8.
If you look at the current UFC lightweight roster, Arman Tsarukyan is the one piece that simply doesn't fit into anyone's comfortable plan. He's too good to waste on veterans who are on their way down, and too established to be fed to rising prospects as a gatekeeper. He has become the ultimate chess move that the matchmakers aren't quite ready to play. The theory is simple. The UFC wants to wait for the dust to settle on everyone else's careers before risking their champions against a complete fighter like Arman. This waiting game is a slow, grinding, psychological battle designed to test and potentially wear down even the strongest contenders' resolve. But for Arman, that growing frustration is quickly turning into fuel. fuel that might one day burn the entire chessboard down.
Charles does look pretty good. Charles in a BMF does look pretty good. But a BMF largely is restored for somebody whose title days are over, but they're still a legend in the sport that you all love. And that's where it would almost disqualify Tsarukyan. He is still on undisputed championship.
Right now, the entire future of the lightweight division seems to hinge on a single massive if, Ilia Topuria. Arman Tsarukyan's clearest path to a title shot involves a direct collision course with the champion, but if the belts change hands or different matchups are prioritized, that path could vanish overnight. Arman isn't just fighting his peers in the division, he's fighting against the perfect world scenarios being carefully constructed by the promotion itself. He is campaigning for a legitimate title while the UFC appears to be campaigning for the next big spectacle. It's a fundamental collision of ideologies, the pure pursuit of championship glory versus the relentless pursuit of entertainment and pay-per-view numbers. And in the modern UFC, the spectacle almost always wins.
Who is Arman going to fight next? My guess, and it's a broad stroke, I think the oars are out of the water. I don't think they're going to book him. I think whoever Tsarukyan fights next is currently booked. And they're going to wait to see the result.
Why isn't Arman Tsarukyan fighting for the lightweight belt right now? The real answer isn't hidden in the official rankings, and it's not found inside the gym. It's buried in the strategic delay of a promotion that has deliberately taken its oars out of the water. The UFC is letting the dust settle because they aren't fully sold on the idea of Arman as their next champion. They appear to be waiting for a more convenient, more marketable hero to emerge, someone who fits their preferred narrative better. This is the dark, unspoken reality of being the #1 contender in today's UFC. You aren't necessarily next in line. Sometimes you're simply the hurdle the promotion hopes someone else can jump over more profitably. Arman Tsarukyan isn't just fighting for a belt anymore. He's fighting for his right to exist at the very top of the division.